What's going on, guys? It's RPG Zeke here, coming at you with another video. This time, another unbound. Just kidding. We're actually going to revisit a series I used to do called Sleeve This. What I would do is I would go through deck profiles and kind of talk about what I'm playing or what I'm looking at for a different card game. This will be the first episode for Gundam, the trading card game. We're actually going to start with a deck that I used at a New Type challenge. I went 4-1 on this deck, meaning I got 4 wins, 1 loss. And I'll put it up here, but I also ended up going 5th place, meaning I got bubbled out of top 4, which is okay. My only loss was against a really good opponent that I would consider I have a rivalry with. Can't talk. That is a rival at this point. I would consider him a rival. I sat down across the table from him, and I'm like, you know what? This is gonna be my one loss. And it wasn't that mental state. It was just our game was so good. Even though he definitely had much better presence and potential than I did at the time, I just couldn't bring it back. But we ended up both top decking, just trying to pull into the next thing that could help us win. And he ended up beating me out, and that was my only loss. He ended the tournament at 3-2, and I continued on my wins after that, going 4-1 by the end of it. So really fun time though. I liked the New Type challenge for what it was, and it was good. My deck performed so well. I was like, you know what, I need to give it a video. I need to get back into this, doing these deck profiles. So now that we have that intro out of the way, I'm going to explain how the video works. I'm going to have it up on screen at all times. This is from gundams.dev. I will have a link in the video description down below. I should be able to also link the deck profile itself. However, like I said, it will be displayed at all times. You're able to use the website to build decks, look at the library of cards, change ratios, figure out if that's something you want to do. I personally, when I build decks, like looking at everything in a view that allows me to see ratios, what I'm looking at, cost curves, and everything else. This website will allow you to do that and move stuff around so it actually looks a lot better when you're trying to sit down and digest what you're doing. So let's go ahead and go over units first, then we'll get into bases, pilots, commands, and then we'll kind of talk theories and things I practiced into. So first up on the chopping block, we got 4 copies of Gundam Lifrith. Gundam Lifrith is the earliest blocker we can play in this deck. You will notice, compared to other green-white decks that are currently in the GD01 format, I do not play Zwart. I do not like that card. So I run 0 copies of it. It's not in here at all. Zwart's a cool blocker for the early game, early unit exchange, but it's not doing what I want it to do, which is obviously taking the opponent down since it's unable to attack the player. Lifrith does not suffer from that. Lifrith has a lot of self-confidence and will smack anybody in the mouth as long as I turn them sideways. So Gundam Lifrith is good for that reason. She's actually able to attack the player. This is at level 3, cost 2, and it's going to be at a good HP standpoint. A lot of the bodies, when it comes to blockers, you typically want them at 4 HP or more, if you can get more real estate out of it. But 4 HP is a great stat line, especially for this deck. And then being able to take the early trades where your opponent typically is looking to put the early stance where they can try to get any unit to be level, attack 3, because everybody wants to crack your EX base as soon as possible to start digging into your shields. Lifrith kind of thwarts that opportunity. She's able to take 3 attack, still have 1 HP remaining, and then you're now inviting the opponent to figure out if they want to invest another unit or another skill or something to try and take Lifrith down for the last HP. So it is really good in that situation, as is most, being at the 4 stat line for the HP. So really like it, 4 copies. Next up is, I'm already regretting this one in terms of talking about it openly, but I rock 4 copies of Wing Gundam Bird Mode. I know a lot of tension online for some reason involving this card where they don't like it or they say the competitive standpoint has moved away from it. Wing Gundam Bird Mode, in a lot of my testing, because it gets you a ramp when you play it, meaning you're able to get an extra EX resource and you can hold a max of 5 EX resources. EX resources, once again, are those resources you get for going second, or if a body or a card is able to make that resource for you, it does count towards your level. It can also be used for cost. Once it's applied towards a cost, though, it goes away, meaning you kind of lose that level and it sets you back a little bit. Wing Gundam Bird Mode helped me out in so many different instances in my different matchups with people. You're able to play him, get a resource, which is awesome, and then he's also a 2-2 stat line, so if you have to swing into an aggressive opponent and kind of take bodies away at some point or kind of trade, Wing Gundam bird mode can be in there for fodder, just kind of like just something you throw at the opponent and see if they have a response for it. Otherwise, you can just play him, let him sit active and be upright, and catch your opponent with different things. For example, if your opponent has to bounce something, there were several times where people were bouncing things off my board and there was no other option to pick other than Wing Gundam bird mode. Guess what I'm doing next turn? I'm playing it again in a winning game state. I'm gonna get the extra ramp, and I'm gonna pressure into getting into my bigger Gundam units we'll talk about here in a moment. That allowed me to shut down the opponent. And there really wasn't a way for them to catch up because I was so far ahead after that pressure has been applied. I know a lot of people have stepped away from this card for personal reasons. They don't feel like it's aggressive enough. They don't like the stat line. There's a bunch of reasons for it, I'm sure, but I do run it at 4 copies because it does perform very, very well in a lot of my different matchups I practice into. Next up, last on the low end of the things, is going to be Launcher Strike Gundam. I practice with this card quite a bit. Launcher Strike Gundam's a level 4, 3 cost, and again, it has that healthy 4 HP stat line you're looking for on most blockers. Does help you thwart and push pressure off right away. Big difference between this and Lifrith is Lifrith having that 2 attack, meanwhile Launcher Strike having the 3 attack does allow this unit to block and potentially take the body away from the opponent, meaning that if I block, there's a good chance whatever just swung is not actually staying alive. With Lifrith, it can happen sometimes where Lifrith takes a bad trade and the unit does live with 1 HP. And with 1 HP, it's now up to me to figure out if I want to swing into it or if I'm going to do something else with it. There's a lot of choices there. But with Launcher Strike Gundam, once he comes down, it's just a bigger body that the opponent really does have to consider or think about. And so it worked out in like all my testing, especially too with where it's at. For comparison, I'll talk about it now. The reason we played Launcher Strike Gundam at 4 copies versus Ale Strike Gundam. When Ale Strike Gundam comes down, it's at level 5, meaning it's already a turn or a resource later before we can get to that level. Launcher Strike doesn't suffer from that. It can come down a turn early. And then also, it only costs 3. Ale Strike costs 4. I know it might sound silly, but there's a lot of things you can do with that 1 extra resource in that same turn. There's also a lot you can do without having to put a pilot under this guy just to try and get some real estate. Keep in mind, with Ale Strike Gundam, it needs a pilot to go under it to bounce a unit. Launcher Strike Gundam, I don't want the units to go away. I need them to stay on the board is how I play this deck. So I'm only bouncing in really bad situations, and I never want to bounce something that I would have rather just stayed just to put a pilot on Ale Strike Gundam. It didn't work out a lot of times. So that's why we're doing 4 copies of this guy as opposed to Ale Strike Gundam. Now with that little tidbit out of the way, we're moving into our bigger units. Now we're level 6 and higher. So level 6, 4 cost, 4 copies of Gundam Death Scythe. Very good card, allows you to ramp by getting a rested resource if you put an Operation Meteor pilot underneath it. The bodies that are going to do that in this deck are Duo Maxwell, Hero Yui. And then you're able to get First Strike, meaning if I swing this into a body and the body does not survive my attack, which is usually at the time being 6 or more attack, which usually kills most things, that body will not do any damage to me in return. So Death Scythe is able to take a trade for practically free in most instances. So that is another reason we're running 4 copies, is because the trade, when it comes to the mirror match, Death Scythe almost feels essential, especially if somebody's doing a different version of green-white where they're playing more blockers than they are playing actual like the wing package and they went on to freedom or something else. Death Scythe will allow you to pressure and push for a win faster, in my opinion, than a lot of the other decks. And it's mainly because of the pilot linking, which I will review once we get to pilots. Next up, we've got the Wing Gundam. This is the starter deck version of the card. At this point, it's only GD01 in starter deck, so I don't know why I said that, but that's all we got right now. But this guy's got Breach 5, and he's able to start helping you clean up bodies on the board. So he's got an ability that allows him to swing into active units that are level 4 or lower as the attack target. So now we're starting to gain momentum. We're breaching, which means that damage carries over to the shield area if we swing into a unit. So if I kill a unit, and then even if Wing Gundam dies on that trade, I'm still hitting the shield area for Breach 5. I'm putting 5 damage on a base, or potentially that popped the base, or I still swung into the shield area for at least 1 check. which is really, really good. So Wing Gundam, even if you don't put a pilot under him, just presenting him to the board already makes a very different board state for the opponent to kind of address, if they're going to address it at all. So it is a scary unit to see. And then last, our boss monster should need no introduction, but we'll say it anyway. It's a Wing Gundam Zero, flying in high at that level 8 with an 8 cost. Why is he so expensive? He can reestablish the board just by coming down once. He's got a lot of things going for him. He has high maneuver with no need of a pilot, which means we're getting around blockers. He's also able to just slam everything with 3 damage that is level 5 or lower just from coming down. So if the opponent decided to go wide, we're at that late state of the game and they think, I'm going wide, I'm going to see if he has a 0. More than likely with how this deck plays, I probably have 1, if not 2 in my hand. So I can clean up the board with 1, and then the second one will usually close everything else out at that point, and it's just kind of over. And this card, very, very good. Reason we have it at 4 copies, I always want to see this card. I want to see it once, potentially twice. 3 is a little much, but you know, we don't want to essentially throw 2 to the shield area when we set up, which can happen. When I did testing at 3, not seeing it was rough. So it goes back to that mythos of deck building, which is where if I put something to a ratio of 2 or a ratio of 3, and I'm not seeing that card that I feel like would have helped me out, if I keep saying to myself as the deck builder, hey, if I saw that card, I would have done this. If I saw that card, if I this, if I that, if I this. As soon as you get into that mental space where you're just kind of blaming that as the reason, I went 4 copies on a card because that's the max. That's the max of the variance we could potentially push on this deck to try and see that body to get out of those situations. So that's why it's at 4. You will notice on all of the ratios here, all unit ratios are at 4. I did that because experimenting with variants was not great in a lot of situations. Gundam's not a card game in the current format of GD01 where we can draw out our entire deck and just do all these crazy things and search all these crazy cards. It just doesn't happen. It's a little bit more tempo based. We're not getting to certain situations often enough. So for that reason, we just kept it very consistent. And I don't have any one of variants where it's like, oh, if I see this unit, I can do this one trick. I don't care. We're trying to win. We're trying to pressure. We're trying to maintain control and never give it to the opponent. And if we do, it's usually like a gesture of like, let's see if you can do something with this little window I'm going to give you. And a lot of times they can't because they are building on variants and seeing these X amount of bodies by whatever turn. We're looking for that consistency. When a body comes down, we know what it's doing. So talking about unit kind of theory there, let's go into the base. Base for this one, it's one base, but maxed out at 4 copies. It's the Underground Desert base. The big reason for this, it helps you stave off the aggro plays a lot of times, at least just to get you into those later turns. It's got 6 HP, which is the big selling point on this guy. 6 HP. Most bases, 4, 5, usually where they float. Some bases having that 6, even though they're not doing anything in terms of an effect. This one's just taking a shield to your hand. It does nothing else. But that stat line's really good, as is the level. It is a level 2 and 1 cost, meaning we can play this early if we need to either fix our hand, because maybe that's bad, or we're just staving off and giving the bigger HP pull for the opponent to try and punch and get that down. And we'll kind of talk about when to start throwing out bases and stuff too here in a little bit. All right, let's move on to pilots. Where's my mouse? I lost my mouse on my screen somewhere. Hey, there we go. All right, first pilot, Duo Maxwell. Duo is really good. Now that we're into pilots, I'm going to talk about when to use this pilot and with what unit, since we've already looked at units. Duo Maxwell, amazing link ability for the mirror match or just playing into a white deck for the most part. White is going to try and control you the best it can, whether it's by bouncing or manipulating your attack points by minimizing it or making it smaller to whatever you're trying to trade into. Duo says, hold on, you're the bad guy of this story. I don't want to deal with any of that, and he doesn't allow it. So his link ability is this unit's AP can't be reduced by enemy effects. Units, commands, really anything that's trying to get at him, he just says no. So a lot of times you will throw this on Death Scythe if available. I'll tell you this right now, if you can establish a positive board state, and you can throw down Death Scythe and get the duo on and take a big body away from the opponent. A lot of times they have to overinvest with making a big trade into your Death Scythe, which is now sideways, or they swing a whole bunch of small bodies into him the following turn if you didn't clean all those up, because they don't want to deal with him still being up. It's a very annoying to deal with a Death Scythe and a duo combo for that particular matchup. And in the mirror match, if the green-white deck does go into a lot of blockers, which is why I decided to keep Death Scythe. I did a lot of testing and variations where we didn't have Duo or Death Scythe and we tried other packages. Duo Death Scythe combo 100% will get you the game on a green-white matchup where you're in a winning board state and they throw out big blockers and they're thinking they're just going to manipulate you the whole time. Duo just says no. And he constantly just reminds them about that stuff. Now, other ways you can use Duo that a lot of people don't expect in other matchups. Blue is very good right now with Amuro Ray. Amuro allows itself to go under any unit and tilt a body sideways that is HP 5 or less. Duo is one of the only pilots in this deck that gets us 2 HP just from existing. Doesn't have to be his particular unit. There's no extra bonuses. He just says, hey, I'll give you 1 attack, 2 HP. Where do you want to put me? I'm so glad you asked, Duo. We're actually going to throw you on Launcher Strike sometimes, and we're going to throw you on Lifrith. If you feel like you're hitting level 4 and you can sense your Spidey sense is going off, your new type, all this other stuff is just telling you, hey, I have a feeling an Amuro is about to show up. Play a fresh Lifrith or a fleshy Gundam. Don't do that. Or a fresh Launcher Strike Gundam. Being at the 4 HP and tuck a Duo underneath. You will a lot of times see Duo again. You've got 3 copies. I know how we all feel when we all have pilots in hand. I feel like that happens a lot with this deck. You don't want to hold on to those pilots either. You want to use them at turning points where the opponent thought they were going to gain momentum, and you can tell them, no, actually you're not going to do that right now, and we're not going to let you take this base for free. I'm going to make you do all these other things. You have a controlling aspect as well, and you have to decide how you want to use that. This combo where we put Duo under Launcher Strike or Lifrith slowed my opponent down so much because they want to play Amuro. They want to go RX-78. They want to put him under anything just to get something to turn sideways and dive for your shields. It's the one way you kind of say, hey, you can't get the Link thing here, but maybe you'll get it on something else, but it ain't going to be this guy with 6 HP. Really, really good for that reason. So Duo for the Link on Death Scythe, you're negating that AP reduction. The +2 on the HP gets you a lot of other benefits, which are great too. And this combo saved me and bailed me out on quite a lot of matchups. Next up, Kira. I just feel like Kira is really good for a lot of different reasons. But if you put him under anything and that unit is swinging, you can turn an enemy unit's AP -2 during this battle. So you can just give it a reduction. A lot of times what I would end up doing is Kira. If I played out a Wing Gundam without a hero, which is his Link, next turn, usually we'll throw a Kira on him just to make him stay alive a little bit longer, or tell the opponent, hey, we're actually just not going to take damage when we do these weird trades, because you're going to -2 into the things you're trying to attack. And then it really makes the opponent go, oh man, that's still a big bird mode, or still a big Wing Gundam. I have to figure that out. And if they don't, you're just going to keep taking real estate for practically free as Kira keeps minusing everything by 2. Kira can also go on to Launcher Strike Gundam. So if you're in a position where you can pressure or take an advantageous trade, there's nothing wrong with playing a fresh Launcher Strike Gundam, throwing Kira down, and then just swinging into something with the Link. Because he's looking for Earth Alliance trait. He doesn't really care about Kira in name, but Kira does have the Earth Alliance, so you're able to just get that swing and pressure. Whether you're going to hit a base, take the trade on the unit, there's a lot of things you can do there. And so that's why Kira is also a very good flexible pilot in this deck. He doesn't care about Link or pair. It's just whenever the unit decides to attack, you're getting that reduction. Really, really good card. So for Duo and Kira, we have a weird variance here where we have them both at 3. I'll kind of talk about that too once we get into our commands, because it will make more sense. Last up, the pilot that we want to see the most is going to be Hero Yui. We have him at 4 copies. 4 copies nets us a lot. He can go onto Bird Mode. He can go onto Wing Gundam. He can also go onto Wing Gundam 0. So we've got 3 bodies that the one pilot's looking for and the pilot going under these bodies is going to be used at different times. Really, there's 2 bodies we want to see for Hero Yui, and this is going to surprise a lot of people. I want to put Hero under a bird mode for early pressure, because linking is something Hero does care about. You will get an additional attack, making this thing give you 3 attack on that unit, and then also an additional HP, meaning bird mode all of a sudden becomes a 2-2 stat line. He now goes to 5-4. Wing Gundam goes to 7-7, and then our Zero just gets absolutely insane. He becomes an 8-9, which is like one of the biggest units in the game, and the opponent's like, what do I do with that? Not a whole lot. You have to figure that out. But for Hero, the early pressure on bird mode, cracking a base at 5, a lot of people don't expect, because you're playing a bird mode and they're like, oh, he won't use the EX resource. No, I will. I'll 100% use it. If I'm in a situation where I can get rid of the base early and allow blockers in, I now switch to game state where tempo's now at my control, and they have to figure out if they're going to try and shield race me and essentially go for my shield, or if they're just going to swing into my units. And then having a unit that's really big, which is a 5-4 stat line at that turn 4 situation, you're going to start grabbing a lot of bodies. If RX-78 decides to take the trade on you, RX-78 with Amuro on that pair is only sitting at 5 HP. A lot of times I was taking a trade for an RX-78 and an Amuro for a bird mode in a Hero Yui. And this negative precedence with bird mode being that people don't want to play it, they don't like the tempo, they don't like this, that ramp and that extra resource for an additional play is really, really good. There's a lot of cards in here we're going to talk about next that use specifically on purpose 1 resource, because there's just so much you can squeeze out in a turn to be very efficient with this deck. And I feel like that's what actually won me a lot of games, is being able to play these other things we're going to talk about once we get to commands. But yeah, don't feel bad for putting Hero on a bird mode. That's his Gundam. He wants to go home, as does he want to use the things like Zero and Wing Gundam, because again, Wing Gundam will help you establish board, start hitting the shields, and you can start late game pressuring, play a Zero if you have another one in hand, wait till next turn, play another Zero, do 3 damage again to everything, level 5 or lower, and then throw the Hero under him late, and then you just start swinging. Now you got 2 high maneuvers that are really big stat line, and the opponent has to figure out how to address that. It's really good pressure, and it kind of makes you just take a back seat to everything as you kind of watch it unfold, and the opponent just kind of freaks out, doesn't know what to do. That's a good advantageous win state for you. Next up, we've got our commands. We've got 4 different commands at all different kinds of variances in terms of ratios we're going to talk about. First one, 4 copies of Striker Pack. Amazing card. If you see this from Burst, you're going to be able to get a 3 attack, 3 HP stat line blocker. And if you play it, you're able to establish another body that is also a blocker. And you get your preferences when you actually play it from hand. You can do a 4 attack, 2 HP, or you can do a 2 attack, 4 HP, making another blocker very similar to Lifrith, or a slightly higher attacker so you can try to take down a bigger body. Keep in mind, with tokens, which is what this makes, there is no way to link. So it's not like you can play the token and hope to swing at the opponent. So these tokens, a lot of times, are going to be doing blocking for you, especially if you're able to burst it from the shield area. That's beautiful. Just keep in mind, the only downside to this is you can only ever have 1 out at a time. What do I mean by that? If you have a token that is from Striker Pack and it's one of those 3, whether it's the one from Burst or it's the one you played from hand, you can't play another one. It specifically states, if you have no Earthlion unit tokens in play, deploy one of these. And it obviously states which one it is based on what you're doing. There are times where you will burst, you get a Striker Pack, you're like, yeah, and then they swing again, and you're like, I don't think I'm gonna block with my new blocker. You should always block, because if you just happen to have a second one in your shield area and it bursts and your token's still alive, you do not get a second one. So a lot of times it's just there to help you reestablish tempo for yourself and start slowing down the opponent, or to go wide and you play another blocker while you're trying to use your Striker Gundams or Launcher Strike Gundams instead for pressure. Again, Launcher Strike you can play. You can put a pilot under him and he actually can swing and start doing things offensively. Striker Pack has to wait a whole turn. You play it, it's not attacking anything that turn. If it's burst, when the turn flips and if it's still alive, you're able to use it, which is great, but it just depends on the situation you're in. So keep that in mind. This was the thing too that tested a lot better than Zwart. I do not like Zwart as a unit. It's something that cannot attack the player or help me advantageously. It's just a bad card. I would much rather see more, better, good, actual, useful cards in my deck. That's why I did 4 copies of Striker Pack. Next up, we've got our card that will bail us out a lot of times, is the Path to Victory or Defeat. I ran this at 3 copies. A lot of times what you're doing is you're just trying to play with the hand that you have and play it in a tempo that's the most advantageous for you. If you get into a situation where we're now level 5 and we can play this for 1, what the board state might look like is you could go a Launcher Strike Gundam, which is 3. You could put a Kira under him that same turn. You're doing something with Launcher Strike, and then with the 1 resource left over at level 5, you can start searching for something else, a piece that you need to get it into your hand. Digging 5 cards that are looking for Operation Meteor anything. It's all of the green units and all of the green pilots. So there is a very high chance that you hit what you are looking for digging 5 deep. You're trying to obviously complete a set of whatever you have in hand. If I had 2 Death Scythe, I'm looking for a duo. But if I don't find a duo and all I find is hero, I'll take the hero, because you're just trying to know next turn after this search is played. You have to show the opponent what you have. Taking a hero to hand when you have 2 Death Scythe is a mind game for the opponent. They go, wait, does he have wing already? Or is he going to drop 0 next turn? It doesn't matter. You give them information to play with, and sometimes that makes them reserved on how they're going to play. There are times I had 2 heroes in hand. I found a third, and I was like, I'm just going to take a third to hand and make them think I have some crazy stuff. And it worked. Like, there's also this part of the TCG aspect, at least currently right now, where you're making the opponent kind of second guess what they're going to do based on information you can provide. Path of Victory and Defeat is not cheating. You know what I mean? Like, you have to show what you're taking to hand. Show them. Let them know. If you have to play a bluff, that's a very good bluff card. Like, what else can you really do about it? It's great. So the other thing too, this was the other thing, was, keep saying that, sorry. So with Ale Strike Gundam, I didn't put it in because, again, it costs 4 on the level 5 mark. And if you put Kira under it, you're maxed out. You're done for the turn. You now have to wait for whatever else could come up in your deck. I hated that. I hated that variant. So I went with this combo instead, just in the level 5 section, because it was the most fruitful in making sure that my next turn, if provided, was going to be more beneficial for me, and where I could start applying pressure or getting the piece that I need to start just slaying out. And it provided that almost every time. I think I whiffed on it like once in one game, but even then it wasn't bad because I filtered through. It was actually all 5. I remember now. It was all 5 white cards. I didn't want those. I wanted green pieces. So I technically saved myself by not finding anything because I was able to send all 5 cards to the bottom of the deck. Next thing I drew was a green card, which helped me immediately start establishing pressure. And that is the other thing you can do too, is rotate your deck. If it doesn't find you a piece, it's getting you that much closer to something that you can utilize. So I really, really enjoyed that card, and it tested really well. Next up is Overflowing Affection. Overflowing Affection is good on the early game, and it helps you just fix your hand. A lot of times I wasn't really playing this. So I would keep it for like later or mid-game stuff, but I would really try not to fix my hand early. Like, yeah, if you only have the 2 resources and your hand's looking really steep, you can play this on the level 2 curve for 1 and try to ditch something you might have too many in your hand. There were instances where I was throwing away cards, and I'll tell you this right now, if you overflow affection in this ratio, things you're going to throw away, Kira. Just let it go. Just let Kira go. The Kira is doing 2 things for you in this. Optimal trades when it comes to putting him on Wing Gundam, and early pressure if you're putting him on Launcher Strike. I'm not really putting him on anything else, honestly. Like, sometimes, yeah, you could do Lifrith for like the stat boost, but Kira was actually the throwaway pilot in this. If I dig 2 cards and I have to get rid of something and I don't care if I don't see it again, it's Kira. And the reason for that is because of the last command card in the deck. It's because of, we're running Haka of Edamin, so Mulaflaga. This is a very good card. I wish I could put more copies in, but just seeing it at 2 felt just right. If there's anything I could change, honestly, I would probably put Kira to 2 and Mulaflaga to 3, just because the action here is so key for staving off aggro plays, especially in a deck that wants to play bigger bodies in the late game. You have to establish some kind of a tempo or a way to trade. Also, too, in GD01, a lot of people are not playing actions or really expecting it. So you'll notice a lot of times against your opponent, unless you're in a pod that just also happens to be playing actions, they're not used to it. So being able to just bounce something to hand that they just played with no link, and it's never going to be able to play again until the following turn after it's been summoned because of summoning sickness, that's great. You tell the opponent, hey, you don't get to play that, Rezel, send it back to your hand. He's going to bounce anything that is 3 or less HP back to the opponent's hand for 1. You can also do it early. The same turn you do Overflowing Affection, if they went really wide that early already, send one of them back to hand. Use the other resource. You've got another one. Again, these 1 resources where you have stuff and you're not doing anything in that turn, the 1 resource on Path of Victory or Defeat, Overflowing Affection, Mulaflaga, they help you reestablish with just the 1 thing, because on the next turn you get another resource. Now you're playing into your level 3s and all this other fun stuff. So having him at 2 was also advantageous because, again, it goes back to Launcher Strike Gundam. Launcher Strike Gundam only cares about Earth Alliance trait. He will take Kira, or with this command card, you can also play him as a pilot. His only trait is Earth Alliance, and he also bounces. It's a very good value card. It's doing more than just one thing for you in the deck. Yeah, sure, it doesn't pop from burst. I get it, that sucks, not a big deal. And you kind of just use him to either pressure, because you'll make Launcher Strike Gundam go to 4/4 as a stat line because he's only giving 1 attack, but it's an option. And it's that option a lot of times that allows you to do something, as opposed to just having a pilot in hand that is doing nothing unless it's your turn and you're able to put him under a body. So those were my reasons for the units, the shield, the pilots, the commands, the reason we're playing that certain ratio. Things I tested into to kind of wrap up the video a little bit. I tested a lot into aggro, specifically 1 Year Rush and Zeon Federation high maneuver stuff. A lot of times I was winning out only because of early blockers in hand, bursting a blocker, bursting a base, any of this other stuff. My first match in the New Type Challenge was Zeon Rush, and they took everything from me. I had no bases, no shields, and what ended up happening was the last card was a launcher or a striker pack. A lot of people, when they do green-white, they just think more variants the better. If I get this thing, I'm able to do these turns in certain orders. That's true, but again, like, you're looking for consistency. Like, having 4 striker packs is the reason that probably happened from the burst area, as opposed to only having 2. Having 2 is like, you're really hoping to never see it, but when you do, it hopefully it does its thing. Again, my deck wasn't really built for that variant. I don't like not having more control of my deck or the cards of what they're doing. And so that's why I went with 4 on the striker pack, 2 on the Hawk, because, again, back to the burst thing, Kira will come to hand. Hawk will not. And that was the reason I decided on the 1 variant's different for having Hawk versus having another Kira in the thing. And it worked out really well. Obviously, I went 4-1. I placed 5th, again, just to kind of summarize, and it worked out really well. Things that you need to, I guess, test based on your own play style. I don't think you need Zwart in this deck. I don't think we have for a long time, and I'm not a fan of it. Keep him out of the deck, and I think that'll make you a better player because you're not trying to look for that out by turn 2. You really shouldn't be looking for an out with this deck. You should be looking for some kind of tempo or trading effect. And I feel like Bird Mode does that for you very well. Lifrith does that for you very well. Letting a burst, a base, really anything come out of burst is good for you. So you kind of have to grit sometimes, let them get their swings in. Maybe don't block once or twice. Slowly let them get to your shield areas so you can find pieces you need or get information. If you see a wing 0 in your shield area, you now know that's 1 less that you could dig for with Path of Victory or Defeat later. And it's just that kind of stuff you need to keep in mind, especially when playing a deck that's more into certain ratios and combos you're looking for. So yeah, I know I ranted a little bit on this video. Whole reason why we didn't do certain cards. Again, just to recap, don't do Zwart. Ale Strike's fine. If you have to play with him, great. I still think he's like subpar at best, and you can use other cards. So if you are in a position where you only got the green starter deck, the green-blue starter deck, and you can only pick up a couple singles that won't break the bank, I think this is a very good deck, only needing the Death Scythe, the Wing Gundam, Zero, and then a couple of the pilots, obviously, and I think you're good to go. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this episode of Sleeve This. Again, usually I draw on the screen, I kind of talk a little bit more, but I feel like I really wanted to talk about this one because I spent a lot of time on it. But again, if you guys liked the presentation, the link for the website will be down in the video description down below. Again, it's gundams.dev, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.